Hey, everybody. Good morning. This beautiful Sunday morning. It's actually a little chilly where I am. But yeah, wanted to thank everybody for listening, popping on. Wanted to kind of discuss the purpose of this podcast, introduce myself, and then we'll dive into, uh, you know, getting into the clarity, why you're doing it, how are we going to accomplish this? What does the future of this podcast look like? What topics are we covering? So, what is the purpose of this podcast? Why did I start this? What I'm hoping to do is provide health, fitness tips, busy people, working professionals, entrepreneurs, real estate investors, people that I really relate to, a lot of stuff that I'm dealing with, and how to fit all of that health and fitness into that busy lifestyle. And what I'll do throughout, this next time and these next weeks is to go through different components of, holistic health and wellness. The different components of them, and getting into the nitty gritty details. A lot of the nutrition and sleep topics that is super important to build that healthy lifestyle. Right, it's not just one dimensional. Lots of different pieces to that pie, and everybody's at different points when it comes to their health, wellness, and all that. What I want to do too is be able to provide actionable items that, when implemented, will produce successful results, and will provide long-lasting results. We don't want to create a ton of restrictions. We don't want to, go into these fad diets, resulting in the yo-yoing of the weight and all that. We want to build those basic habits that start from a foundation, that are something you can do consistently, and build up to create a lifestyle that works for you. And that's not just, you can't have any fun, you can't, have a couple of drinks, you can't go out to eat, or when you do, you have to order the salad or the side salad, right? We want to have that balance, and everybody's balance is a little bit different. And that's the beauty of it. And since this is targeted towards people who entrepreneurs, people starting businesses, real estate investors, since I'm a real estate investor myself, I listen to a lot of real estate podcasts, a lot of different podcasts, but they talk about real estate. They use fitness as an analogy, right? Because it's a lot of the same components. There's consistency, there's clarity, there's goals, there's all of this stuff. So for anybody who's a real estate investor, I will be doing some real estate analogies. I'll try to make it as relatable as possible, but I think that will help kind of hit home for that target. But ultimately, if you pay attention and you take some action on some of these items that we're going to go over today and in the future, it applies to anyone and everyone, right? Building those base habits and building off of those and just being consistent with them. So thanks, Cindy. Thanks for popping on. Glad you were able to make it. So that's the purpose. That's what we're hoping to get into. So who am I? Like, how do I know what I'm talking about? And so want to go through a little background. So I am born and raised about an hour north of Philadelphia. Still live there 15 minutes from where I grew up, my childhood home. All through my life, I played sports. Played baseball, played swimming, I played soccer, and I gave basketball a try. I was pretty good at every other sport. Basketball, for whatever reason, like, I was horrible at. I don't know why. The only good part, I didn't start playing until middle school, so everybody else had actually played, and I was like, oh, I'm pretty athletic, I'll just jump in, I want to try something new. It was not great. My parents made me stick with it, and I'm super fortunate that because I was so bad at the beginning, I did win the most improved award. So that was probably the only upside of that entire experience. But played sports all throughout, and then in high school, I stuck with just swimming in the wintertime, soccer in the fall. I got introduced into CrossFit, which is really big now, but that was back in 2007. So that was like right after it started. It was super new, but it kind of built that competitive drive. But I just did it as a support to soccer and swimming, like off-season stuff, just getting the weightlifting in. So then I went through high school and college. I just stuck with soccer, played on the club soccer team at Drexel. So that was just always, that was more or less just for fun. I wasn't doing it specifically for fitness or health or anything like that, but just to get a little bit of competitiveness, right? It was 2 nights a week of practice, a game on Saturday. So it was super low key, getting to hang out with my friends. But, I stuck with CrossFit as kind of a supplement to soccer, and, going through all the years of consistently, doing stuff for sports. And that was when I had to, to be on the team and practice. And so doing that consistently, whenever I didn't work out, right, whenever it was like Monday, Wednesday, when I didn't have soccer, I didn't feel great. Like I was like, I need to get to the gym, like just to move. It didn't need to be anything crazy. It just 20, 30 minutes, once I got there, it ended up being an hour most of the time, but just going was what made me feel better. And, I graduated college and sports were done. Like, there's pickup games and there's adult leagues. But, CrossFit was the only thing that stayed with me, right? That was my sport now, because it is competitive and it's a community aspect, right? You go against your friends, you want to improve yourself, you want to improve your lifts. So I was doing that, every day, 22 years old, having a blast with that. And so that kind of just continued the foundation of what I'm doing, and the health and fitness, it was just part of my life. Like it wasn't an option to not do it. So that was huge, and never stopping that. There was never that big gap of time, which I know can be an issue. Stuff pops up and work gets hectic, and next thing you know, it's 2 years and I haven't been to the gym in, that 2-year period. Like, well, how do I get started? I don't even know what to do. All I remember is being, 22 or 30 and feeling great at the gym. And now I feel like I walk for 20 minutes and I'm like dead. So it's like, that gap is hard to come back from, and hopefully we can kind of build back up to that and give you some actionable tips and goals and stuff to work towards to build that foundation back up and not just jump full tilt into it, right? Because that's hard to do, to dive fully into something. But being at the gym a lot, I started helping people with stuff. I started to learn like the methodology of CrossFit and fitness and all that stuff. I never got any like formal training, but besides the certification that CrossFit requires to become a coach, which I eventually did because I was there a bunch. I loved helping people. And so that became a big part of my life. And then, I had the fitness side down. I was sleeping decent. I mean, I was after college, so I was still kind of partying probably a little too much than I should have been. So I didn't have everything dialed in at once. And once I kind of got, over that, I started dialing in some nutrition portion of it. Like, okay, let's play around with, the different macros, the proteins, the carbs, the fat. Like, how do I perform better, right? There's a period of time where it's like, let's see how heavy I can lift, or how much better I can feel during the workouts, how much longer I can go for these long workouts. So, I got into nutrition. I dialed everything in. I played with like dropping weight and gaining weight and macro counting and all that stuff. And then even just portions, after weighing and measure everything, I kind of just eyeballed everything. But it was just doing it over and over and over again, the consistency, and finding success and how that made me feel. It didn't have the 2:30 p.m. crash where it's like, oh, I just want to take a nap. I felt really good, but it wasn't sustainable, right? Counting and weighing and measuring wasn't sustainable. So I was like, we'll eyeball it and it's close enough and we'll see how I feel and adjust as we go. And so going through that myself and seeing what results it had for me, from a performance aspect, but also from, just a general life aspect, like I wanted to help people in their journey through that. So precision nutrition certified coach, healthy steps nutrition coach, through my CrossFit gym. And I wanted to help other people do that. So, got all the coaching stuff, been doing that for a few years now. And, it's been great. So I wanted to, expand the audience a little bit, kind of work through what they're struggling with, how I can help, and just provide this guideline, right? I mean, hiring coaches can be intimidating. There's a ton of information online. You can, search everywhere and find completely conflicting things. 1 week eggs are terrible for you, the next week they're the superfood, right? So it's super confusing. So having somebody help guide you, while I'm not like a registered dietitian or anything like that, I can't make meal plans or anything. I can help with, where are you at? What are those habits that you currently have? How can we, improve one thing at a time and slowly compound it, right? It's not a, quote unquote, get rich quick scheme. It's going to take time and consistency, but, we want to slowly build that up. So, what are we going to talk about today? So, this is the first episode. You're going to kind of be along with my podcasting journey. anybody that knows me, I'm not a super outgoing, like, hey, look at me, you know, I want to be in the limelight. Like, I like my coaching an hour a week, and that's great. But you know, we'll go along with my journey of podcasting, but also your journey of like, all right, I want to be fitter. I want to be more healthy. I want to have a better lifestyle. I want more overall, you know, balance and well-being. So, you know, you're going to be starting on this journey. Like, what does that look like? Where are we at now? Like, I'm going to work on figuring out clarity for where you want to be, and you know, why you need that clarity, and what to expect along this journey, because it is a journey. It's super long, right? It's a lifestyle. That's what we're looking to build, not a quick fad diet. Let's see how much weight we can lose in 30 days. It's how much habits can we build over 30 months, 30 years. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about, you know, the main components, like I said, you know, the 6 components of health and fitness to kind of create that holistic approach, and then kind of what to expect, you know, moving forward in the weeks to come. So definitely looking forward to kind of figuring out what's working best for people, what's not working best for people, what topics should I cover, what shouldn't I cover. You know, I have some ideas on what typically are the biggest issues, but it'll be interesting to get some feedback on, you know, what everybody's currently struggling with now. So the journey, right? That's what we're starting with. You know, when you go and you start, you know, a road trip, let's say you go to Google Maps, you figure out, okay, you know, the screen pops up. You have 2 options: where are you starting, and then where you're going to. So it's super important to know both of those items. You know, where are you at right now? What habits do you have? What are you currently doing? What are you eating? How are you sleeping? Being mindful of what that is, and what actions and activities and habits you currently have. The more you are aware of that, the better off we are as we go through this, right? So you have your starting point. You know, where are you now? It doesn't matter, no judgment, nothing like that. Like, it is what it is. You're here, cool. Let's acknowledge it. All right, now where do we want to get to? What does that future us look like? And then once we have those 2 points, right, the map will give you a couple different options, and right, we just pick one and we'll start going that way. And if it doesn't work, maybe we take a wrong left turn, or we take a, you know, need to take a reroute or redirected. And those are going to be the challenges that we struggle with and that come across. And we just know, all right, we're going to get rerouted, we're going to go around, we're going to get back on the path. What we don't want to do is just blindly go, because it's going to be super confusing. It's going to be harder. So we want to have an idea of where our end goal is. That's going to serve as our motivation. So throughout most of this podcast, we're going to talk about clarity, why it's important, right? It's important in pretty much any venture that you go around. You know, if you're starting a business, right? Why are you starting that business? What is that business serving? Who do you want to help? And really honing in on that one thing, because, you know, as part of any new journey, you're going to start with excitement, right? Maybe you're on here like, yes, I'm super excited. This is going to be cool. Some new information. You know, I'm really going to hit it hard. You know, we're going to start doing we're going to go to the gym a bunch and all this. And so you're super excited, right? You get off and everything is great, and it's moving for, you know, the first week, 2 weeks, and like everything's going well. You're still motivated. You know, maybe you're texting your friends, or anybody else that you're kind of, you know, going on this journey with. But, you know, eventually, you know, it's like, okay, this is kind of repetitive. Like, we're going to the gym every day. Like, I'm kind of tired of eating, you know, veggies. So that excitement starts to wane down, right? Or you have something that gets in the way, some unexpected event happens, and you miss the gym for the week, or, you know, a nasty cold comes through, right? My wife had one a couple weeks ago, and she was just out. Like, there was nothing. Like, going to the gym was just not going to happen. So when those things happen, right, the excitement's gone, which keeps that motivation up, keeps pushing you through. What do, right? What happens when that challenge happens? You miss that week at the gym, or you miss that week of meal prep. The clarity and why you're doing what you're doing, why you're going on this journey, is going to be super important, because you want to be able to reference that. And the morning that, you know, it's snowing and it's cold and you don't want to get up and go to the gym, you're going to think back to that and be like, I'm doing this for this reason, whatever it is. So when those obstacles come, you can think back and then come out of that little rut, reinvigorate the excitement, and then keep going, right? Because the other option is to stop and quit, and then, you know, all the stuff you've done the past couple of weeks is gone. So pushing through with that clarity and that motivation will be super, super helpful through the inevitable ups and downs that you have throughout this entire thing, right? So, going back to like starting a business, right? You're excited, you got everything going, you've got all the stuff on order, you're doing all your marketing, all that stuff, and then a shipment gets delayed, or something doesn't come in on time, and you got to work through it. You're working 20-hour days just to get it done, and like at some point you're like, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if I want to do this. You just want to quit, and then you go, wait, like I'm building this business so I can have this passive income, right? I can start delegating stuff out, or I can eventually sell it and then be set, or pass it off for my kids. Like that's the stuff that will keep you motivated through it. So as you're navigating through this health and fitness journey, just remembering what is your why. And so like for real estate, right? Like I want to buy properties. I want to have cash flow from those properties. But to do that, I have to, underwrite deals. I have to get private money. I have to, connect with people. I have to manage the people that I'm talking with and connections. And some days it's just like, I don't feel like underwriting these deals. I don't feel like talking to these people, right? I just want to stay in bed, or I just want to like veg out on the couch and watch Netflix. It's just like, why am I doing this? I want a long-term generational wealth, that passive, monthly income, right? My son, I want to be able to pass something off to him. That's what gets you up and motivated every day. So that's what I want to focus on. My why for health and fitness is my personal one, right? I want to be able to be active. I want to, be able to coach my son's sports, or, throw the ball with him in the backyard and not have to worry about that, that health issue. Another thing too is if something happens, right? Something that happened to one of the members at our gym years ago. He, super healthy guy, he went to the gym pretty much every day, like definitely super, super fit guy. He ate well, super clean. He got Lyme disease, and got this, it was like a freak one where like he like got rushed to the hospital, and he was sitting in the bed, and the doctors were like, you might want to like call your wife. Like, we don't know what's happened. Like, we're trying to figure it out, but like, it's not like things weren't looking good. And, so he eventually got through it, but he remembers going through all of that. But what ended up happening was, whatever was happening to Lyme disease, his heart rate got so low that was what the doctors were concerned about. But because he was so in shape and fit, they were like, he was fine. His blood was able to reach the rest of his body and all that. So it's like those kind of things too. Like, you can't prepare for everything. You can't control everything. But if I can set myself up for the best chance to survive one of those things, that's what I want to do, right? Because I do want to be here for the long haul. I don't want, my wife and son to have to go on without me. So those unexpected things, right, are the other items that you can kind of consider, right? Outside of the obvious, like lose weight and feel good and all that. Like, those are great things, but mine are a little bit deeper, because I do have that good foundation. And I hope that, everybody can get there, and that, that can kind of help inspire some people too. Is like, that story is like, that saved his life. There's countless stories of people that are car accidents that they worked out. So they're, for whatever reason, their body was able to handle the trauma better. They were able to recover better. So lots of good reasons to have that clarity, because that's what's going to get you through those times where you're not motivated anymore. So finding your clarity, going through a little exercise that we can kind of think about. I'll ask some questions. You can think about it now. You come back, listen to it, think about it, a little bit more. Find journaling. I went through a business coaching course. Jesse is actually on here. Thanks, Jesse, for popping on. He encouraged journaling, right? Writing down kind of your thoughts, what you're doing throughout the day. I find it, kind of therapeutic to just write everything that's going on. So, this clarity, this future self that you're looking to build, thinking a year from now, how do you feel, right? Like when you're working out, when you wake up, just when you're getting ready, when you're doing anything, like how do you physically feel? How do you mentally feel? And being super specific with it helps ground everything. Also, what are you doing, right? Are you going to the gym consistently? Are you, coaching your kids' sports? Are you starting a business, right? Whatever that is, right? It doesn't have to just be health and fitness stuff. It can be personal. And who are you with, right? Are you with the same people you're with now? Are you with new friends because of the gym or because of the new business you started or the new venture or the new job that you got? Those few questions, and again, be super specific with what that looks like for you, because we're building that future self now, right? We want that end point in that GPS to guide us to that person. A couple of other examples to dig a little bit deeper. Do you feel energized throughout the day, right? Are you usually, right now, are you crashing at that 2 o'clock mark, that 2 or 3 o'clock mark after lunch, and the day is kind of dragging a little bit? When you're at the gym, when you're working out, when you're running, like, does everything feel heavy? Are you moving easy? How do your clothes fit? Are you trying to fit into clothes from 5 or 10 years ago? Are they tight? Are they loose? Like, however, you want them to fit. How do they fit? What are you wearing to the beach or the pool? Some people, CrossFit gets the knock where it's like the work doesn't matter what temperature it is, what time you start the workout, like shirts are off right away, right? Do you want to be somebody who's like, yeah, I'm not ashamed anymore. Like, I look great. I feel great. Like, I don't really care. Right. And that's something that's awesome. Like, if that's what's going to get you up every day, be like, I want to be that person. Awesome. Let's do it. And then what type of activities are you doing? Are you doing stuff with your kids? Are you running? Are you lifting? Are you walking the dog every day? And then who are you doing those activities with, right? Is it your family? Is it friends, current friends or new friends? What kinds of workouts are you doing with them? And then are you getting your family involved? Cousins, friends, brothers, sisters, right? People you see often, and the more people you're around, right? You're the average of the 5 people you're closest with. So if everybody's, working out, chances are you're going to work out. I actually saw a podcast or a clip from a podcast that was talking about people who, in a corporate situation, people who sat closer to a higher achiever on average did, like, I don't know, 23% better, like, in their performance, as opposed to if they sat towards somebody who was like a lower achiever or kind of just did the bare minimum, they decreased by like 33% or something like that. So it was like just that proximity of people doing what you're doing is huge. So if that's what you want to work towards, right? Your future self is being somebody who's being more active, right? Getting around people who are, fitness, health oriented will be super, super helpful. And after you go through all those questions and kind of self-reflecting, finding that common theme, picking the 1 or 2 things that kind of stand out most to you, writing it down, and then just having a constant reminder of it, right? Whether that is your journal where you read it every day, or you pop it up on the mirror, and it's just somewhere you can see it consistently, right? Because you want to have that in the subconscious moving forward, because the motivation is going to wane, right? And you want to do it before it wanes. You want to hang it up there and just remember it every single day. That way it keeps the motivation, it keeps the excitement up. And so that's what's super, super important. So the other thing that we want to talk about is not just focusing on a weight goal either. I know it's kind of the easy thing, like, oh, I want to lose 30 pounds by the end of the year, or 20 pounds, right? Those are important. That's something that can be the result of everything that we do, but it shouldn't be the focus, because the scale is kind of, it lies. Like, it's up and down. It's all over the place. Sometimes it just goes day by day. So I don't love the weight only thing, where you can have a target. That's the result we're going for. But it doesn't need to be like the specific thing that we think of when we identify with our future and our future self. So taking that goal, all right, let's say, that end result is, 30 pounds, but say the clarity, the thing that we're, working towards every single day is, I want to fit into the clothes that I wore, 5 years ago, right? Let's just say that is. So what do we need to do consistently to make that happen? What are the consistent goals each day that we need to hit? And that breaks down to every day. And then once we do those over weeks, we'll do those over months, and that turns into years. And then we're back to where we want to be, right? We're at that future self. So, fitness example, right? I just want to go to the gym consistently 3 days a week, right? Start at something basic, something that's attainable, achievable. And then achieving 1 serving of vegetables 3 days a week might be a great thing to start with, right? And that's not removing anything else. That's not changing anything else. That's doing 2 extra things, 6 times a week. And those are the kind of goals and habits that we want to form. And we'll do a deeper breakdown in a future podcast on like how to come up with those goals. What's the thought process on how to get there? So I think those will slowly work up to where we want to go. So we have present self, where we're at now. We talked about getting some clarity on where we want to go, super important as we go through those rough patches, and then connecting the two with those goals. And the goals are what actions, what habits are we doing every single day? So that being said, we'll go into what are the main components of health and fitness. And so each of these components will resonate with different people. Some people are nailing some of them, portions of them, and some people are missing out. Some of them have low levels on all of them. Some people have high levels on all of them, right? We're all in different spots, but there's 6 different portions of health and fitness. The most obvious is the nutrition side of it, what we eat and what we drink. Then we have the sleep part, which is also super important. We have exercise, lifestyle, and then we have stress, and then support system. So we'll briefly talk about each one of those because they'll set a foundation for those goals and for future episodes. So our nutrition, right? Questions to consider, right? And kind of think about all of these as we talk about them. When we come back and listen to it, think about where you are again, finding out where we are today, so we can build that foundation for the future. What are you eating throughout the day? How much are you eating? What do those look like? How much are you drinking? What are you drinking throughout the day? And it doesn't need to be a super strenuous activity where you're writing every single thing down or you're weighing everything, but just an idea, right? All right, so I had a couple eggs for breakfast. I had a glass of milk with that. Maybe a side of fruit. Lunch I had a chicken Caesar salad. It was one of the Wegmans store-bought ones. I had all of that. And then a glass of water with it, right? Just getting an idea of what the consumption looks like throughout the day. Again, just to be more present with that, because then we'll be able to adjust and figure out what can we hit first. That's going to be that low-hanging fruit that will create the biggest result with the least friction, the least resistance. And then, how often do you eat out, right? Do you go out to eat 3 times a week? Do you hit the drive-through on the way home like every Friday? Again, not looking to change that yet, but just being present and familiar and conscious of what's happening and what you're currently doing, so we can figure out, all right, what is the next best step for me? Because you might never eat out and it might not be an issue. Yeah, Jesse says, eating is my nemesis. Yes, right? It's super easy to just go to town, right? Especially if you have kids, right? You have all the snacks and you can just pop in there, maybe you're picking off of their plate. Eating is, right? It's calories in, calories out. It's as simple as that, but it doesn't mean it's easy, right? It's got challenges because it's so accessible and makes it so easy and even affordable for the stuff that you don't necessarily want to be eating. And then, the last thing, part of nutrition, right? We talk about eating, drinking, but like drinking alcohol, right? Again, good or bad, it's all about amount, but just being conscious of it, not trying to change anything just yet, but just being aware of how often am I going out and drinking? How many drinks am I having? Just being what kind of drinks am I having, right? Because there's a big difference. You have beer and then you have liquor, right? There's going to be differences there. So that's important to consider as well. And then, so we got nutrition down, right? The other big one is sleep. So how much do you sleep, right? What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? What does that quality of sleep look like? Are you in bed from 10 to 6? So you're in bed for 8 hours, but maybe you're sleeping for 2, or you're tossing and turning like all night, right? So the quality of sleep isn't there, right? And we can dig into deeper, like why that might not be, right? Maybe it is the nutrition portion, maybe it's an exercise portion, maybe a stress portion, right? It's all different reasons for not sleeping well. So maybe that's something that's important that's causing you to not feel good and then not wanting to go to the gym. So there's lots of ways to dig into that. Like I said, what time do you go to bed? Do you go to bed at a consistent time, or are you kind of all over the place, right? And I know weekends are typically like, oh, I'm up later a little bit, but the weekdays are consistent. So how can we change that? Do we need to change it? And more importantly, if you go to bed consistently at 10 o'clock every night, awesome. Like, what does that nighttime routine look like, right? Are we watching, our phone? We're leading up to it? Are we watching Netflix leading up to it? Are we reading? Like, do we have a consistent routine? Is it different every time? Like, our body likes routine, that likes consistency. It'll adapt to a different consistent item. But if you're like all over the place, bouncing between stuff, body typically doesn't love that. It likes to wind down and ease into things. So, the nighttime routine is something I see a lot of people struggle with, and can make the biggest difference. Again, just depends on the person. Yeah, and then what the hour before you go into bed, like that's the biggest part. Like, that affects your sleep more than you'd think it would. All right, so exercise. That's the third one, right? So we have nutrition, we have sleep. All right, now we have exercise. How active are you? What are you doing? Do you run 2 days a week and then lift 2 days a week? Are we running 6 days a week? If you are, I'm sorry, I could not run that often. It's like, hey, do you want to do this marathon? It's like, no, I'm good. I'll lift weights. I do work for like 5 seconds and then rest for 2 minutes. So, like, again, activity, anything is good. Anything is better than nothing. So, even if that's walking the dog twice a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, right? I'm sure the dog loves it. I know mine does. I probably could walk her 7 times a day and she wouldn't be satisfied with it. But if that's all the activity you're doing, perfect. Great. We know where we're starting. And then what time do you do those activities? Is it consistent? Is it 8 a.m. every day or 5 p.m. every day? Again, that consistency thing helps from blocking out a specific time to do that stuff. Yeah, Carlin says yard work. Perfect. Yes, I know Carlin loves gardening. I do too. It's therapeutic, and just being outside in the warmth, like especially right now in the wintertime, it's rough. So yard work is a great source of activity, right? And then how do you feel when you're working out, right? If you're working out 6 days a week, but you feel like you're not making any progress, or you feel like crap while you're working out, right? Maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe you're not doing the right exercising, right? Maybe you don't enjoy it as much as you think you are, or you're doing something that you don't enjoy just because you feel like you should be doing it. Maybe we should try something else. So, those are the types of questions to ask when considering, like, what does my activity level look like? Where am I at right now? The next one we have is stress. So obviously that's a big one. We talked about it a little bit in the sleep portion. What does your current stress load look like? If you're starting your own business, if you're an entrepreneur, or maybe you're a high-level manager or director at your company, right? And you have a lot of stress. You're managing people. You're making sure things are done on time. They're right. So stress is one that can lead and cause disarray in a lot of the other components, right? Stress eating, right, in the nutrition side, or stress, maybe you're drinking to get rid of some of the stress, right? And then you're not sleeping well because of that stress. So, where is that stress coming from, and how are you managing it, right? Like I said, binge eating, drinking, some people manage it that way, and that could be affecting your sleep, which could then be making you more stressed, and it just snowballs. And we want to try to avoid that. How can we avoid that? So just being mindful of, where is that stress coming from? When do you typically feel that most stress, right? Again, we're coming back to that journal. Like, all right, if I'm feeling stressed, is it after a certain event? Can I avoid that event at all? And if not, how can I help myself when I know this event is going to happen? It's going to cause me more stress. So that's super important. And then the last one, lifestyle. So, as part of this podcast, I want it to be something that people can take away, items that doesn't completely disrupt their life, something that they can fit in with what they're already doing, that builds that habit. Because that well-being is a balance between everything, and that well-being looks a little bit different for everybody. Considering things like, how do you want to live? Do you want to be somebody who's like, I want to run this marathon, and I want to, continually beat my own score. I want to finish this place at the Boston Marathon, right? That's going to require a different level of commitment than somebody who just runs 5Ks for fun on Thanksgiving. Like, hey, I don't care. I'm just here for general like health and well-being. Like, cool. Like those two paths, those two journeys are going to look completely different for those people. And it's not that one's better than the other. It's just what is right for you. What do you want when it comes to health, fitness, lifestyle, general well-being? Similar to real estate, right? Like somebody might want to just, buy single family houses and, one or two every year and be cool with that. Some people might want to buy 40 a year, right? They might want to buy large multifamilies. So like, that doesn't mean the person who's only buying one or two a year is wrong or they're not doing the right thing, but that's just the lifestyle that they want to live. They don't want to put in, the systems and teams and all of that is required for the bigger stuff. So, same thing with starting a business. Maybe you just want to have, a couple employees and you're doing $10,000 a month. Like if that's cool. Like there's nothing wrong with that. So how does health and fitness fit into your lifestyle? What are you hoping to get out of it? And then how quickly do you want to achieve it? Right? The more committed you are, the more consistent you do it, the more, intense stuff that you do, right? Macro counting is going to get you there faster than just, hand portions. They're two different paths. One just might be a little bit quicker, but it comes with trade-offs. It's more work, it's more time. There's more sacrifice. So if you're not willing to do that, don't think you need to do it just because somebody else is, or just because somebody's seeing results quicker, right? Again, it's that path. It's where am I at now? Where am I going? How do I want to get there? Everybody's path's a little bit different. So just considering, where that balance is for you and just starting with that. And that might mean that your path changes throughout, right? Like in any business or any, job, you're moving around, right? Maybe you're going to a different company or a different role because the one you were at wasn't working. You thought it was, you loved it when you first started, but things change, right? Just like health and fitness, maybe you're getting into macro counting. You're like, oh, I definitely want to do that. The excitement gets there. You want to overdo it right away, but you get a month into it, you're like, I can't handle this. Like, all right, we'll back off. We'll change course. We'll, go around the detour and we'll get back on path. Like there's nothing wrong with that. So being super intentional with what do you want, being realistic with what you want, what your lifestyle can allow for. Just depending on the obligations and the commitments that you already have. The biggest thing that I can recommend is starting small. Everybody, like I said, gets excited and like, oh yeah, I can go to the gym 6 days a week. Meanwhile, I haven't been to the gym in 3 years, and I can, count on my macros. I'll eat this much grams of protein. Like, okay, like what's your confidence level on that? Like 100%. I can do it 100% of the time. It's like, okay, like I hope so, but let's be realistic. Like let's sit back, right? People get super excited super early. So be realistic with what you want. And if that's what you want, great, awesome. Like let's go for it. But again, it's a conversation that you probably want to have with somebody who can kind of help guide you. There's been a lot of times where, I've asked clients, been like, you feel 100% confident you can go 6 days a week. Like, where are you currently at now? And they're like, oh, maybe we should start smaller. So always start smaller than you think. When it comes to like health and fitness stuff, because it's super easy to get discouraged. So definitely lifestyle. What do you want? Don't worry about what you think somebody else wants or what you think you should do. Start with what do I actually want to get out of this? And then we talked about kind of people that are around you. What is your support system? Who are the people around you that are supporting you and that you're supporting as well, right? Friends, family, spouse. It's definitely super nice when your spouse can be on board with, meal prepping and, grocery shopping and, coordinating, hey, I'm going to go to the gym now. You're going to go to the gym here. Like it makes it a lot easier when everybody's on board, but that's not always the case, unfortunately. So finding the support system, whether it is your spouse or is family, maybe it's not even your current set of friends. Maybe you need to go find some new friends at the gym that can be your support system. But having somebody there, accountability groups, super, super important as part of the real estate, stuff and the business coaching stuff. Like I have accountability call just got off it a couple hours ago. Every morning at 9 a.m. Hey, how's the week? What do we got going on this week? Like, how can we hold each other accountable? All this, like kind of how this podcast started, right? I was like, they're like, you need to start a podcast. So we need to start talking about this stuff. We need to get ourselves out there. It's like, okay, like when are we going to do it by? How are we going to get there? Like they held me accountable, right? You want people to push you and that when you're struggling with stuff, when it's like, oh man, like I don't know if I can do this, you can reach out to them and just say that, and they'll be like, no, you got it. And like just that little word of encouragement, that and along with the clarity will help go through those ruts, those tough times that you might have, that when you're just like, I just don't feel like doing it, because the motivation will go away, but the clarity and the support system, super important. All right, so I want to leave every episode with an action item that you could take and start implementing right away that will move you in the right direction. So we talked a lot about finding the clarity, what that journey might look like, maybe a little bit of goals. We talked about the components of what does holistic health and fitness look like, health and wellness. So taking some time. If you need to re-listen to this, awesome. It'll be saved. I'll post it. What is your why? Why do you want to make these changes? Who are you doing it for? Somebody? Are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for, maybe you want to be able to play with your grandkids? I know like my parents have done health and fitness. Like that's where I got it from. I had a good role model. And watching them being able to play with, my 9-month-old son, their grandson, like without having to be limited, right? They can take him on walks and play with him in the yard, and as much as a 9-month-old can, but they could carry him around, right? So it's super nice to have that. Maybe that's your why. Maybe you just want to be a good role model for your kids. I know that's what I want to instill. Like I had that growing up. I want my kids to grow up with that role model. So why are you wanting to take this journey, taking this step to improve health, wellness, and all of that? Finding that clarity and writing it down, right? Write it down, post it somewhere where you can see it consistently. And that includes, thinking about where are you now? Like, what does your day currently look like when it comes to what you're eating, what you're drinking, how are you sleeping, all that stuff. Just a week or two log, just a quick, in your notes app or anything like that, just to give yourself an idea. Because if you do work with, a nutrition coach, a fitness coach, anything like that, they're going to want to dig into everything that's happening right now to figure out where we can go moving forward. What's the next best action? What's the next habit that we can work on? So that being said, as you go through all of this, the clarity, the why, what you're doing now, just think about like what one thing can I add into my health and fitness right now, right? What's the simplest thing? And I don't want to worry about taking anything away. I don't want to stop anything. But what can I add in? Is it a little bit of veggies with dinner? Is it going for a walk every day? Is it whatever it is, right? Just think about what's that one thing that I can do, and start doing it. And if you want to reach out to me and, say, hey, here's what I'm thinking, I'm more than happy to hold you accountable. If you want to, comment on this video, like, pronounce it on your Facebook page, whatever you think will help you stay accountable, right? And inspire other people. I think that would be the biggest thing to do. So find your why you're doing this, where are you now, and what can you start implementing today, right? Let's take that excitement, and we'll ride that wave for as long as we can. And then when you start struggling with stuff, inevitably, because unfortunately it's going to happen, not to discourage you, but just to set the expectations, that upfront contract, like this is going to be hard at points, but the reward, I promise you, will be worth it. So start implementing that stuff. I appreciate you guys hopping in on a Sunday morning. So I will sign off on that and keep an eye out for future podcasts, and let's dig in a little bit more. So thanks, everyone.